Now, here in Nigeria, there's a big push to make this country self-sufficient in specialty chemical raw materials within the next decade or so. You may know that all specialty chemical products are currently manufactured outside Nigeria. Well, the Blue Seal Energy Group is trying to change all that. The group is building 10 oil field and industrial manufacturing plants across Africa. One of them has already been delivered in Lagos State. The group is also partnering with universities to offer internships aimed at training the next generation of chemical engineers and industrial chemists in this country. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Group Managing Director and CEO of the Blue Seal Energy Group, Dr. Doyle Edeni. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles, for having me.
Before I talk about your company, I know you've been attending an oil and gas conference in Abuja. Tell us about that briefly.
Well, it's an exciting forum where oil and gas companies come to celebrate the Energy Week. You come to listen to government policies and programs and how they intend to make the climate more investment friendly. For those of us who are investors that are coming from outside, responding to their call for Nigerians or Africans generally in diaspora to come to help develop the continent. It's exciting to hear even the ministers of state for oil and gas. Both of them were at the forum today, and also the Executive Secretary for Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. The government is making a lot of effort to be able to woo investors to come into this climate. And so from the Sub-Saharan Oil and Gas Conference that held earlier in the year to this, is the same recurring theme about the need for collaboration, the need for conglomeration of national and subnational companies to come together to be able to build something local that is significant to challenge the influx of materials into Africa with the goal of trying to transform the local environment in such a way that we become productive and self-reliant, and then we can start exporting to other continents as well.
That's essentially what you're trying to do. Your company is trying to do here in Nigeria. You're pushing to make this country self-sufficient in the local manufacture of industrial chemical raw materials. Just tell us about that.
Okay, so right now many factory lines are shut down because of access to critical industrial chemical raw materials. You may have seen, you are in the news business, and you have seen that many companies have taken flight from Nigeria. Sometimes they are forced to shut down because they can't have access. Then that situation also has been exacerbated by wars. The most current one being the Palestinian-Israeli war, but then there was the Russian war. Before that, there was the COVID pandemic that really made us realize that we need to wake up as a continent here for us to start doing some things that will help us to survive. And ironically, some of those critical raw materials are earth metals that are buried under our feet. And Africa is a reservoir for most of these earth metals. But we have not grown our industry in the area of beneficiations for years. And so we tend to we just extract some of those unrefined metals and we ship them out. But that shift is what I think led to the emergence of organizations such as the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, not just in Nigeria. I think as a result of what Nigeria has done in that field, they have gone ahead to be able to do it across some African countries as well. And when you see opportunities, considering that Nigeria and Africa has about 1.5 billion, they are estimating to be the population, and in the next 50 years could grow to about 2.5 billion, with about 70% of that population under the age of 30. That is where the growth is in the future. So we are looking at that opportunity and saying, instead of manufacturing from our facilities that's based in Luling, Texas, why don't we move it back home? But we are doing it in a different way. Like you were asking me, so what's so different when we're having an conversation during my last trip? And I told you it's different in the sense that we are not coming here to take out the people that are players in this industry that are supplying these materials, but we are coming to enable them. So our plan is to build 10 factories in the next 15 years across the African continent, starting here from Nigeria. And we think if we are successful in doing it as we have begun by building the first plant near Dangote Refinery at Ibeju-Lekki in Lagos State, if we're able to succeed in Nigeria, we will be able to succeed in other African countries as well. And we are doing that by seeking local participation as well. And not just that, we are in the process, in this trip now, we're signing an agreement with a company, a consultant that will be able to go around universities and look at the best brains we have in industrial chemistry, chemical engineering, because you need to grow it organically and bring people into the field.
I was going to come to that in a minute, but what I actually want to know is what are these specialty chemical raw materials that you're going to be processing?
In order for you to bring oil from out of the ground, you need to produce, there are drilling fluids, there are chemicals like rheology modifiers, micro-emulsion breakers, and so on and so forth. They are pumped into the ground to be able to get the oil to come out. So when the oil comes out, it needs to be refined to a state where you call it's an exportable crude, where you remove the debris, you remove the water, and so on and so forth, in order for you to be able to get it to the standard by which it will be accepted for it to be shipped to a refiner abroad or local. So those are the production chemicals. So you have things like emulsion breakers, corrosion and scale inhibitors, water clarifiers, and so on and so forth. Those categories of products. So in the Lagos factory now, we are able to produce that in country.
So Nigeria has not been producing that all along?
No. To some extent, some people, they have what they call blend plant. But what we are doing that's different is that we're having both exothermic and endothermic reaction, which means that you are going to bring the compounds together to really build from the scratch. Because by doing that, you'll be creating actual jobs. Nigeria currently graduates about 600,000 students every year from its universities. In our negotiations towards building these factories, looking for local participation, we ask the question, for example, when we get to any climate, the state government, some of them are inviting us, bring the factory to our location because we have about 4 that will be built first in Nigeria. And they say, come here. And we say, what is your plan for integrating these people into the workforce? You can't just graduate people out of colleges and then you don't have a plan for them. So, and it's not going to take off by just going ahead and building blend plant. Blend plant means that you have a product that are finished. You have them in as concentrate, very concentrated form. You bring them to the country, and maybe you use the blending media. It could be some oils and base oils or whatever to increase the volume. Basically, that does not create enough job. And I think very recently there's some laws that are being enacted now. For you to participate in some of the oil contracts, you must be able to produce the chemicals locally. And I think that's a step in the right direction. That will create employment, that will transfer technology, and that will help also, even like...
and that also gives you a head start, doesn't it?
Yes, because we're already in the field.
But you mentioned that you were partnering with universities to offer internships that will help to train and equip the next generation of chemical engineers and industrial chemists and so on. Tell us about that and how you hope that will transform the chemical sort of processing industry in Nigeria.
Okay. So right now, most people, I myself, I'm an engineer by training. And when I was in
You're a chemical engineer?
I'm a chemical engineer by training. When I was in the university, when we were going through all those processes, you can read these concepts in books. But in terms of application, how do molecules actually interact in solution? And how can we engineer in such a way that we can modify that process and control?
So practicals are very important.
Very, very important. And that's what I've been able to deduce, that is the difference between here and living and working in North America for a long time. The way we train people here is that it's
very theoretical.
Very theoretical. Not just that. And when I was in the University of Benin, my professors, when I gave the alumni lecture in 2022, they remember that I used to challenge the process of, if you make an input, there is supposed to be a processing before an output. I remember in one of those courses, and the professor gave me a B, and I said, no, this should be an A. And he said, you are almost there. You have the general idea of the application, but you should have replicated. I said, I don't need to give you what exactly you gave to me. It's my understanding and application of it that matters.
Very good point.
Very good. And
very good point.
And for that reason, I was able to query some of the molecules before me, and you are productive. And that's how we think to change our educational system.
Absolutely.
So these people were going to be picking from different places. We're going to bring them in for them to see what it means to re-engineer. And some of them have molecules they are thinking about now. So in our own facility, and I would love for you guys, some of your colleagues were there when we opened the factory. The difference is that we have an analytical lab that caters to the quality of the product that we are going to be churning out. But then we have a research lab, which is a much bigger lab, where we are going to be running simulation tests, testing molecules, and so on and so forth. If you go to the Niger Delta, there are some people that make some chemicals. They don't have a clue what is the primary components, but they know it works. And for us to build our own industry, we need to characterize those and get some patents for them to be able to have something of its own.
Absolutely.
And then we try to get all of them together to be able to form a critical mass that's going to significantly change the industry. That's how we become very self-reliant in that industry. And we are leading the charge to see how we can initiate that process and invite others.
We commend you for what you're doing.
Thank
you, as you make progress, come back and talk to us again.
By all means, by all means.
Dr.
Thanks for
Doyle
having us.
Edeni is the Group Managing Director and CEO of the Blue Seal Energy Group. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, sir.